everybody, welcome to Midweek. Glad you have joined us. I got our resident prophetic theologian here. This is Tyler, who happens to be the pastor for our young adults. And we're going to be doing something a little bit on Midweek where we kind of interview somebody. We're going to be doing Tyler, we're going to be doing Pastor Jeff, where they're doing some teaching that you may not be aware of, but we want to spotlight it here on Midweek. And we will, at the end of our time today, kind of give you the address and where to locate it, because it might be something that you are really interested in. You started a new series.
Yes, I did.
You've been doing all kinds of stuff. You're over at the garage. That's called the 5 Bay. It's called North Block. We've got about 5 different names for it.
Yes, we do.
And you started this series in Daniel. Now, I have noticed that Daniel has become like the new hot topic that a lot of people are teaching on. Why? What does Daniel deal with that makes him in this season right now so compelling?
Whenever anything happens with Israel, things get apocalyptic. And so when COVID happened, everyone got excited about Revelation and end times. And then when Israel was attacked, everyone gets animated about the end of the world. And the reason people get excited about Daniel is because if you understand Daniel, you understand Revelation. It's one of the more quoted books in John's Revelation. And so people get excited about it because if you understand it, it's telling you the future. Yeah. We truly believe that Daniel's visions and dreams were giving us a picture of end times timeline. And so we get excited about it because as God says through Isaiah, if you understand prophecy, you realize God told you the end from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so we get excited about it because it causes us to worship and brings more of a concrete understanding of who God is, and we get excited. So
we're always afraid of getting to the date, because I'm old enough that I remember the 84 reasons Christ was coming back in 84, and I remember the 88 reasons he was coming back in 88, and I remember Y2K, and that was pure pandemonium and craziness, and the apocalyptic talk that came out of 9/11. So that's happened, and so we have that hesitancy, and yet Matthew 24, Joel, Daniel, Revelation gives us all kinds of things. When you look at Daniel, I call it the lens you look at. It's critical as what happens in this book. I use the term progressive parallelism. There are parallel tracks that overlap each other, but in that parallel track, it gives you progressive or deeper insight.
Yes.
I would argue that's another framework to look at Revelation.
Yes.
What kind of language do you help your students as you're teaching them to kind of as a framework, an interpretive framework, if you will, hermeneutic, in terms of how you interpret it? How do you break up Daniel?
Well, progressive parallelism is a wonderful term that you can understand as you read these. Scripture is telling you one massive story, and God has told us, I told you the end from the beginning. So if I understand Daniel, I understand Revelation. And even inside Daniel, and I tell the young adults this every single week, chapters 1 through 6 are telling you a narrative story of Daniel's life in Babylon, and there's a lot of applicable things there. But then chapter 7 through the end is giving you a prophetic timeline of end times. And so I can begin to understand these visions and these images and these stories of 7 through 12, which help me understand Revelation, because it's confusing, but it's giving you the scope of human history to deeper and deeper degrees as we understand different pictures and visions in each story.
So let's go back to chapter 2, because that's what we're going to kind of focus on today. Nebuchadnezzar's king. He has a dream. And he does something that to my knowledge, they hadn't done. They always ask for an interpretation of a dream. But Nebuchadnezzar knew his magicians and all of those individuals, they can kind of come in and lie. And they can make this thing up. So what he did was different. What did he do?
He asked the magicians not only to tell him the interpretation, but he says, tell me what my dream is, which is such a beautiful moment of clarity on behalf of an evil king, that he goes, if you claim to speak with spirits and dead people and you can tell the future, you should be able to read my mind. And none of them can, and they all freak out. And so he says, fine, I'll murder all of you. And so they all leave and they panic. Daniel was still in training, so he wasn't in the room. but he gets the edict. Me and my friends are going to be murdered. And so he goes to the king and he asks for 24 hours. He says, will you let me go pray? And I will come back to you to the best of my ability with the dream. And he does. God answers his prayers that night. And so he says, King, not only do I have the interpretation, I have your dream. And the dream was of a statue with various metals going from gold to silver to bronze to iron and clay. And he tells him, this is a dream of the future. After you will come a series of kingdoms. And this is where we get excited, because Daniel chapter 2 has a parallel dream that Daniel gets in Daniel chapter 7. And these dreams tell you these kingdoms will come after you. And so commentators all agree, 99% of them, that the first three kingdoms are Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece. Where we disagree, but I get excited about this, we get to have fun with it. In a humble way, we get to ask the question, who do we think the fourth kingdom is?
Now, he names the first three.
Yes.
So there's real clarity.
Yes.
What he does on the fourth kingdom is he doesn't name it. He gives you a criteria.
Yes.
I would say probably the classic view is the fourth kingdom is Rome.
Yes.
That's maybe the majority.
Easily.
You don't land on Rome.
I don't.
Number one, it's not named.
Yep.
The criteria is given. Give us a couple of reasons out of the criteria why you think, and we'll come in a minute to who you think it is, and you get to study and be like the Bereans. You look at the text, you study it.
Yeah.
There's criteria. Give me one or two of the criteria that you think Rome doesn't fit this.
I don't think it does. And I say this with so much humility. There are men and women in our church that are brilliant, and they've said it's definitely Rome, and I respect them so much. But here's the criteria. The fourth beast, or the fourth kingdom, was said to crush completely, geographically and culturally, the three preceding kingdoms. It was said to be a divided kingdom, and it was said to be different. And Daniel never tells you how it was different, but we can ask, looking at the first three, is the fourth kingdom different? And so what we do as Bereans is you can take any kingdom that came after Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, so any kingdom that came after Greece, does it fit these criteria? Geographically, did Rome crush the three preceding kingdoms? It didn't. Go look at a map yourself. Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece. Looking at a map of the Middle East, it's the same map. Rome shifts up to Europe. 2/3 of the preceding kingdoms, it doesn't touch.
Yeah.
And then if you look at it divided, Rome was only divided for 140 years of its 1,500-year history. The kingdom that we'll talk about in a moment was divided from its inception. And then different, Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece were all polytheistic. Rome was polytheistic. It was a political kingdom. So were the preceding three. They weren't religious. The kingdom that I'm going to talk about is monotheistic and very different. So I truly don't think it's Rome, simply because Rome does not meet the criteria that Scripture gives us.
You haven't pulled this kingdom out of yourself. I mean, it's like, but again, it stands different than maybe the classic view.
Yeah.
In your mind, who is this fourth kingdom? And then we're going to move to this question. Okay, how does that impact us today?
Yeah.
What's the fourth kingdom from your perspective?
From my perspective, it's an Islamic caliphate. And for those of you that don't know what a caliphate is, the Quran speaks of this religious leader that ultimately will come and govern over a world that Islam has cultivated. So everyone on earth will be a Muslim in their view, and they will be led by a caliph. A caliph is a political and religious leader that will oversee all governments and then hand it over to their great leader, their Messiah. So a caliphate is a Islamic kingdom. And if you look at the map of the Islamic caliphate that started after Muhammad died in 632, the map is exactly the same as the previous three kingdoms. It overlaps them completely. It was divided between Sunni and Shia from its inception. They've been a divided kingdom since day one. And then were they different? Again, I said they are monotheistic and religiously driven, not politically. Yeah. So it matches so far every single prediction or criteria that the fourth kingdom would have. So as I look at my world, Matthew 24, as you mentioned, Joel, Isaiah, they all say, stay awake, be alert. So how does this affect us? Look around. Look at your world. Look at world leaders. Stay engaged. Don't hide in your bunker. Don't get scared. Don't get depressed. We're not supposed to despair. The Christian should have the answers. If God indeed gave us the end from the beginning, we should encourage people.
So Peter gives me, I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago on Midweek, is the end is near.
Yeah.
And he gives us 3 things to do. Be alert. I think that's what you're doing with your young adults is, I want you to be alert. I want you to look at the leaves. I want you to look at, what's happening and look at Scripture and be alert, be aware, look at your surroundings.
Yeah.
Second thing is, I want you to be sober. Yeah, not fearful, not overwhelmed, not distracted, but have a sense of sobriety about things, and then pray. Well, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Because what you're really trying to do with the book of Daniel, and I know a lot of people are very interested in it.
Yeah.
So I encourage you, number one, if you want to hear more of Daniel, you're doing it on a podcast.
Yes, sir.
Tell us how to get to it.
We started a podcast about 1.5 years ago called The Garage. It's on Spotify, iTunes, our website. So you can go to our website and find the link, or go to Spotify and iTunes and look up The Garage. That's our podcast name. And
there's pretty much all your teachings there, but the current one in Daniel is there.
Yep.
You also had a prayer for Israel that has had a lot of views.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a really special prayer for Israel that if people want to pray, as Peter says, how do they find that?
You can jump onto our Instagram page, SFB Young Adults. And this one was really neat because Hannah, our social media coordinator, listened to the prayer live and then clipped it from my talk. And so this was organic. It was, we didn't so much plan this, and we launched it, and it's had almost 1,000 views. So it's 10 times the audience that I have in real time. And it was a prayer concerning Israel, but also loving innocent Palestinians. And it really just struck a chord with people. So you can find it on Instagram, podcast, website, any of those 3.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today. We're looking periodically at some of the teaching our other pastors are doing, and also this one in particular. And we'll probably come back with Daniel a couple of times and maybe lay out some other things for you to study. Enjoy Bereans, wrestling with the Scripture. You find out who that 4th kingdom is in Daniel 2 and 7 and beyond, and we'll look forward to hearing back from you. This weekend, we are going to be on deck with all of our normal services. We look forward to having you here, and I'm going to be one of the first to tell you Happy Thanksgiving. I know it's in a week, but we got to say that a bunch because everyone needs to be filled with more Thanksgiving. We love you. Have a great week.